when I started learning about the power of the mindset, and when I learned the basic understanding that your thoughts in your mind creates your feelings, which then creates your actions, my whole world was like, what? Really? I thought other people could make me feel a certain way. I thought other things would bring me joy. I put my power outside of there. And really, what I learned was bringing back my energy, calling it back to myself, bringing back my power to myself, really just how powerful we really are. So, when I say that, what I mean is the mindset. Like, I choose the thoughts that come into my mind. And of course, we all have bad days. We're all going to have this is just life, right? But it doesn't serve me to think thoughts like I'm not good enough, or I can never do that, or I don't know how to do that. Or there's just not enough time.
Hey there, my friend. Welcome to the Powerful and Passionate Healthcare Professionals podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina. I am a cardiothoracic surgery PA with a background in public health and neuroscience. I'm also your peak performance coach. I had to say no to working extreme long hours where I was always on call and feeling exhausted, underappreciated, and undervalued, and said heck yes to a life and career that elevates my energy and passion without compromising my health and sanity. Now I'm on the mission to support ambitious healthcare professional like you with a demanding career to become a confident leader who are living purposefully and fulfilled to truly be both a powerhouse in your career and a passionate person in life. Let's start our journey today. This is Sabrina, your host for another episode of Powerful and Passionate Healthcare Professionals podcast. I'm so excited for you to dedicate some time for yourself and just joining in, open your ears and listening to something new. And today we're going to talk about feminine power. And I'm so excited to have Susan here with us. And she is someone who will give you the tips and tricks. So Susan Elizabeth is a woman who has mastered her feminine power. She is a life coach. She works closely with high-achieving women to step into their own beauty and power, to embrace a life with more fulfillment, pleasure, and meaning. She does this by tapping into her experience of more than 30 years working with Fortune 500 companies and international corporations in ever-increasing level of responsibility and leadership. And her highly demanding corporate positions, speaking engagements, and other responsibilities brought her to the point of exhaustion. She quickly learned that her permanent frustration is having to be man up, to be taken seriously, robbing her the pleasure, time, and connection from her husband, preventing her from being fulfilled in her work, forced her into thinking that the more she worked, the more worthy she was as successful as she can be. So then she experienced the moment of clarity, summed up by the quote from Wayne Dyer, "All of my life, I wanted to be somebody. Now I'm finally somebody, but it isn't me." She took the time to retreat, tapping her spirituality, seek guidance from a coach and proper wellness and self-care routines, and ultimately master her feminine power. She overcame self-abandonment issues and worked to identify her real desires, discovering her purpose in life using this wisdom that is overflowing with experience and knowledge. She now guides and elevates women to awaken to their deeper inner calling to live lives complete with fulfillment, authenticity, connectedness, high energy, pleasure, and purposeful driven desires. So this is amazing. I'm so glad, Susan, that you're here. There's so much to be said in this topic where women itself, we take on a lot of load. In medicine, particularly, 1 out of 6 are in C-level dean of schools. And 80% and more of us are females in healthcare. So we are definitely giving away a lot of that power to other people. At the same time, women feeling like they either have to be a powerhouse in both their work and household, and they have to work like they don't have a family, or they take care of family like they don't have a job. They have to do both. And then it's driving us crazy.
Yeah. And what's interesting as I'm listening to you share that is going into healthcare. And really, when you get back to the passion of why somebody would choose that path, it's really about wanting to help others, having that curiosity about the science of it, the art of it as well, because you're interacting with people, and you really want that wellness, and you're constantly giving away your energy to help others, to be there, to show up fully for whatever that is, whether you're doing research or you're on the front line really interacting with people, or a combination of all that. And I think especially as women, and how I so much relate to this is I was constantly taking care of everybody else, putting everybody else first, everything out there, whatever they thought, whatever they needed, whatever they did. And, after years, really, it came down to such burnout and such exhaustion. Like I just, and I was always raised like, you got to just work hard. And I did, I worked hard, but coal miners work really hard too. And, why can't we just come back to being? And so, I'm still in my corporate job. I'm in a leadership position, and I'm in a place now where I've learned how to kind of come through that. And wow, life is so much better. And I'm an entrepreneur now. And, I'm all these things. And I feel like I have a great life. I've learned to kind of work through a lot of those things that you just mentioned. And I'm in such a better place. And a lot of that I take and I turn it around, and I help coach mostly women and help them to get through that place where they feel stuck, or they feel like there's got to be something more, or I just don't know how to move forward. I don't know how to stop and get off this constant flow of running around. And I know because I've been there, and it's quite a journey.
It's definitely tough for many people. And if we don't even see it, if we don't even recognize and own up to it, we get back in that cycle of, I'm just doing it. I just have to. I need to push forward. No one can rely on because they all rely on me. And we start making all those excuses. And you work in corporate America, you work on this high level, and you're not helping a woman to get out of that. So what do you see besides all these problems? Some of the pivotal changes that you had or other people are start to experiencing to realize now is the time. Now is your time.
Yeah. I think when I started learning about the power of the mindset, and when I learned the basic understanding that your thoughts in your mind creates your feelings, which then creates your actions, my whole world was like, what? Really? I thought other people could make me feel a certain way. I thought other things would bring me joy. I put my power outside of there. And really what I learned was bringing back my energy, calling it back to myself, bringing back my power to myself, really just how powerful we really are. So when I say that, what I mean is the mindset. Like I choose the thoughts that come into my mind. And of course, we all have bad days. We're all going to have, this is just life, right? But it doesn't serve me to think thoughts like I'm not good enough, or I can never do that, or I don't know how to do that, or there's just not enough time. None of that serves me. So really coming back to learning that that's just a thought. There's no good or bad thoughts either. It's just a thought. And so choosing a new thought is so much more empowering. Like, you know what? I don't know how to do that now, but I know why I want to do it. And I understand how passionate I am about doing that. So I'll figure it out. Or, you know what? If it's really important to me, I will find the time. So when I learned to really manage my mindset, I call it being the CEO of my mind. Then I was able to have feelings as a result that just, it felt better. It served me better. And then my resulting actions were just completely different. And that really opened up my world. And when I help other people that I coach about that, the awareness comes in, and then you might have habits. You can choose a new thought that serves you for what you really want, what your dreams and your goals really are to drive you forward towards that. So that's one of the things that was so powerful for me.
You're so right. Everything that we say, it can either affirm us or deteriorate us. And the words make so much power. If we constantly repeat, I'm stressed out, I'm not okay, I don't think I did enough, I am just so angry at this thing. If you deserve to validate those feelings, but once you validate those feelings, it need to be kicked off of your life, right? Get rid of them, because what we really need to do is from all these experiences, figuring out what we have learned. What is the things that actually served us, and draw the definitive line of what didn't serve us, you leave behind you. You wanted to look at what did serve you, because that's what you actually want out of life. If we don't have these experiences, how can you really tell what you want, what you don't want? At the end of the day, we always can say, oh, I just don't like XYZ. How many of us can clearly say, we have this bigger vision. I know what my life needs to be in a year. And so even for Susan, so let me ask this. If we're sitting together having coffee and in a year, you're like, Sabrina, let me tell you all this great stuff I did last year, what would you say to me?
Oh my gosh. Like what I've done this past year, not only did I become like professionally certified as a coach, I still have my corporate leadership position. I've also launched my own company and I'm an entrepreneur and it's taking off. And so I'm experiencing all these things and I don't feel tired. I don't feel exhausted. And I have time to do things that I just love that are my hobbies and pleasures. And yes, COVID is happening right now. Yes, we're at home so much more than we ever have been in our lives. But being at home and there's so much to do at home that are different than things that I've done by going out to do things in the past. It's so amazing to be able to have that energy and to be standing in the authenticity and that connectedness and really having that fulfillment and that pleasure to live life this way compared to how I used to live life. And I think if I can do this, anybody can do this.
That's so amazing. So well said. And then when you're thinking about all the awesome stuff you're able to build, you're able to coach, you start companies, and you have all these amazing things, what are some of the emotions that come into your mind when you're telling me that?
I love that because that's something that I have also learned that, emotions, I have such joy, I have such happiness. I feel empowered. I feel elated. I feel inspired. Like energy brings energy and it's a positive energy that's happening. And again, there's rough days. There's things that happen. This is not to say everything's like all wine and roses. It is not. But there's this beautiful flow of energy that I'm in, and I don't go against the flow. I go with the flow. And, the feelings or the emotions, think about this. We as women, we think that feelings, there's good or bad feelings, but really they're just feelings. And I used to want to run away from the bad feelings and not feel them. So I would just kind of shut them down and go over here and go over there and run away from that. But really, if we can could just come back to it, and if something makes us angry, feel the anger. And it's like, okay, and it just passes. And if something makes us feel a certain way, it's like, it just feel it and it just flows and just go with it. Because what you resist persists. I'm sure so many people have heard that term before. And when you just don't resist it, it can just pass through you quickly. And the joy, if we're feeling joy or happiness or inspiration, we can choose to stay in that. And the thing I want to come back to is, nobody can make you feel anything. They get to be who they are. And it's how you choose to feel and think about what they are or what they're doing. That's really owning your power and not giving your way or power to anybody. And I've watched so much of that happen this year with politics. We're not here to talk about politics, but that's just a really good example of how I would see people get really triggered. And it's like, I just don't want to give my power away to anybody. It's like there's things happening and whatever route you choose, that is choice. And that's the power of who we are. But, just really coming back to thoughts that serve you and having those feelings and emotions that I get to choose show up in me, in my life.
Yeah, so well said. It's the you choose your own power. I did a TV segment when it's right after election time because there's post-election disorder syndrome. It actually is these stressors causing us to have physiological changes. It actually relate to higher heart attack, higher stroke. And in cardiology, we also have a term called broken heart syndrome. It is exactly that. When you're so freaking stressed out, guess what? Your heart stopped working. It doesn't squeezing so well anymore. So why do we allow ourselves to put into those terrible spots? And it's not just an old people thing, okay? Like study actually show 50% of sudden heart failure in young people is also due to broken heart syndrome, stress. Right. And then the new study even show the burnout age now average is 32. It's crazy how young that is for everybody. If you think about the burnout rate is so young, what about the rest of people? Do they have to live with burnout the rest of their life if you don't have a system? And it's all about what Susan is saying. You have the power of choosing. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Why do you think about helping women in these stressful relationships and then positions is something that so deep down brings you joy and power?
I think it's because I've been there and I've worked through it. And had I really recognized that I didn't need to do it alone. So, I've actually had a support system in place for quite a number of years now where I've hired my own life coach and I have my own life coach and I have support systems. But really realizing and doing the work that stress is there's just stuff going on in the world. It's really how you respond to things. And so really learning those tools of how to respond consciously, not react to stress, to live the life that we really came here to live. Think about it. If we are women and we really show up authentically in who we are, or men, it doesn't matter. So, I basically coach mostly women. So that's why I'm talking about it from that point of view. But just think about it. If we authentically show up completely in who we are, and we understand that our thoughts become things, our thoughts create our feelings and emotions, which create our actions. In stress, there can be things happening. And how I've learned the tools to deal with that, had I learned them, 30 years ago or 20 years ago, life would have been much more what I'll call flowing. I don't want to call it easy, but much more flowing and smoother. Not the exhaustion that I've had. I had the burnout, I had the exhaustion, I had the self-abandonment. It was painful. And I just refused to go back there. And being on the other side of it now, looking back, it's like, I just want people to know that there is another way. And, there are people out there, there are coaches, sports people hire sports coaches to help them. There are groups, there are coaches, there are people that can be there to help teach tools or provide support to get out of that fast lane, to come back to yourself, to show up on purpose in your life.
Exactly. It's all about purposeful living. And we have to understand what that purpose looks like for you individually. And it's okay for you to have no idea. And that's why you have people like us who can get you the clarity that you want to. Because once we have that amazing ideal life goal and lifestyle and purpose, then you can truly have an internal compass to guide you, no longer doing 10,000 things and thinking they are all your hobbies, they're all your exciting things, right? But it's actually distractions. So I love it. And I so appreciate you being here. I know Susan is launching her book called Women Who Power Up. I'm so excited for that to come out with amazing coaches, speakers, influencers in there. And then she has a summit coming up as well. So how can people find you before we wrap up? And then, of course, for every speaker on the show, we have them reflect about themselves as well, because we can all be experts, but we can't be experts in everything in our life. And that's okay, right? Because unique. And so we're going to ask her also to share some of her thoughts when she took that life assessment.
Awesome. So how people can reach me would be through my website. It's Susan Elizabeth Coaching. If you just Google Susan Elizabeth Coaching, I actually have a free ebook called The Secrets of Truly Powerful Women. And if you sign up, you can become an insider in my community and also receive that free ebook and get updates and kind of wisdom nuggets as well. And we do have the book coming out as well called The Women Who Boss Up. It went live this week and now we're #1 best-selling authors, which is awesome. And so excited. We have the summit coming up, which we're so excited about. And yeah, just really, really thrilled about that.
Yeah, all the exciting things in life. So, yeah, Susan, please share with us what was your first impression when you took the exam, the quick assessment, and anything surprising to you, anything you would change?
I loved going through that process when I took that. And thank you for having that available for people to take and going through that. And first of all, I love stuff like that because I'm really into personal development and have been for a long time. So going through that, I have a lot of pleasure and joy when I do that because the insights that I can gain and cause me to self reflect are really important. So when I went through that, I really realized, I have done the work and I feel really good about where I'm at in life. And I want to share that and give back. But I also have recognized that with my assessment as well, continuing to be connected from my spiritual place, continually being connected, I'm not talking religious, I'm just talking about connected to the divine, connected to my highest self. I do that well, but I'm talking about going from like an 8 to a 10. I'm talking about fine tuning that where I really connect to source and let that flow through me on a daily and moment by moment basis and live from that place much more often. And I do that a lot, but I'd like to turn that volume up even higher in my life. So it was really cool taking your assessment.
I'm so glad that you liked it. And then that's the purpose is we're all human. So it's okay. From just that one piece, there's the energy world that some people never tapped into. We can't feel it, but we can still draw power from it. And then that's the one part that you're seeing. So anybody who also wanted to have a quick reflection, and you can actually take that 3 minutes quiz. It's really short, but to the point, and wanted to have a discussion with me, feel free. You can go to sabrinarunbeck.com/assessment to grab a copy of that. And so I so thank you everyone for listening in, for chiming in. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment for us, leave a review on iTunes. Wanted to truly be here to serve you. I want to hear from you. What's your year going? How is that projecting? Any stressors in your life that we can help you to solve? So thanks everyone. And thanks, Susan, for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, my friend, how did you love this episode? Make sure to subscribe to our show so you can continue to build your positive intelligence for that beautiful mind of yours to live powerfully and passionate. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. You probably have a lot more questions on actually how do I implement those things into my own life? Well, this is the solution. Joining us inside the private Facebook group, go to facebook.com/groups/powerful passionate, where I go live weekly to answer any questions that you have and continue to put more resources for you to help you to get to that point. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you're no longer working on any mundane work and truly focusing on the things that matter. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you can overcome any mental roadblocks keeping you from success. You can be both powerful and passionate, where you feel energized from the moment you woke up to the time you go to bed. Join me, and together we can create a life where you can be both powerful and passionate.